Tonight, the Anti-Defamation League will host their annual leadership conference in Washington, D.C. We'll have live coverage of Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. You'll also hear from the Weekly Standard's Bill Kristol, who will discuss Colin Powell's proposed international conference on Mideast peace, and a report from world Jewish leaders. The ADL's National Leadership Conference is live tonight on C-SPAN. The collapse of the World Trade Center following the September 11th terrorist attacks was the subject of a hearing Wednesday by the House Science Committee. Witnesses included officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the American Society of Engineers. It's 2.5 hours.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone here today to our second hearing on the collapse of the World Trade Center. In many ways, this hearing is a continuation of the discussions we began at our first hearing on March 6th, and indeed, we have the exact same panel of witnesses before us today as we did 2 months ago. On March 6th, we delved into the procedures that were followed to assess what had caused the towers to collapse in those indelible moments of September 11th. We were not happy with what we learned. We found that the study of the collapse had been hampered by bureaucratic confusion, hesitation, and delay, by a lack of investigative tools, and by excessive restrictions on the flow of information. But we also learned that despite these severe impediments, the team led by the American Society of Civil Engineers, as well as other researchers, were able to draw some preliminary conclusions about the collapse, and that the National Institute of Standards and Technology was willing to pick up where the ASCE team had left off, even though NIST officials couldn't tell us much at that point about exactly what that meant. Today we will pick up the story where we left off, focusing on 3 issues. First, the ASCE team will describe the conclusions of their study, and it will become the subject of full-blown public deliberation for the first time. Second, NIST will tell us exactly what it intends to do in its follow-up investigation, for which the administration has requested $16 million. And third, we will release and open up the public discussion on legislation to ensure that the problems that hamstrung the ASCE study never, ever recur. Let me first turn to the legislation, which I have drafted with my colleague, Mr. Weiner. The bill, known as the National Construction Safety Team Act, is designed to remedy each and every impediment that was encountered in the Trade Center investigation. At the March 6th hearing, we uncovered 4 ways in which the status quo was unacceptable. First, no federal agency was clearly charged with investigating building failures. The bill solves that problem by giving NIST clear responsibility to handle the investigations. Second, nothing ensured that investigations would begin quickly enough to preserve valuable evidence. The bill solves that problem by requiring NIST to act within 48 hours of a building failure. Third, no federal agency had the investigative authority it needed to ensure access to all needed information. The bill solves that problem by giving NIST clear authority to enter sites, access documents, test materials, and move evidence, as well as clear authority to issue subpoenas. Fourth, nothing ensured that the public was kept informed of the progress of the investigation. The bill solves that problem by requiring NIST to provide regular public briefings and to make public its findings and the materials that led to those findings. We listened closely on March 6th and we have responded with a measured, targeted, precisely to remedy the issues that came to our attention. And we based the bill on a highly successful model, the National Transportation Safety Board, the federal agency that investigates airline crashes. We want to begin to get comments on the draft bill today, and we intend to introduce it, along with several colleagues on this committee,